Okay, so this is the third video for the minimalist poster assignment. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the document in Illustrator and how to bring in a template. I created 3 thumbnail sketches and then I scanned them in because I have a scanner. But if you don't have a scanner, you can take a picture of your thumbnails and bring those into Illustrator and use those as your template. Okay, so the setup for the Illustrator document is we're going to do 11 by 17. You can do a portrait or landscape setup. Your resolution is going to be 300 and CMYK for the color mode. Even so, this is going to be a black and white. We're going to do a black and white version first. And then after you've turned it in, we're going to do a color version of it. So, but for this first version of it, it's only going to be black and white. So black and white, so black lines, black shapes. And then we're going to do another version with color. So this one's just going to be black and white right now. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Illustrator and I'm going to set up the document. So you're going to do File New, either from the File menu, New File, or on the home screen, you're going to click on the New File. And then you are going to click on the Print setting here, the Print option. And that way, it's going to change the color mode to CMYK and then the resolution to 300. Now, even so, it's vector. It's only vector. We're not using any images. It still will be a high enough resolution image or a file that if the good thing about Illustrator is you can resize things, make them the size of a postage stamp, and then increase the size all the way up to a billboard if you need to with anything that you create in Illustrator. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my measurement here from points to inches. If you don't change it to inches and you put in 11 by 17 or 17 by 11, depending on the units of measurement that you have there, it may end up being a very small image. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to do is change it to inches. And then you can do 11 inches for your width. Press your tab key to tab through those fields and do 17 for your height. Okay, again, you can do it landscape or portrait. So you can change the orientation here. Right now, this is landscape. Portrait, excuse me. And then this is landscape. So if you click on that, it'll reverse the numbers for the width and the height. So if you want it to be portrait, it'll be 11 by 17. If you want it to be landscape, the dimensions would be 17 by 11. So that's up to you which direction you want the page to go. So I'm going to keep mine a portrait. So 11 by 17, make sure it's inches. And again, by clicking on the print option here, it's going to change the color mode to CMYK and the resolution to 300. Okay, so once I have that set, I'm going to click create. And there is my document. Okay, so I am going to reset my workspace. Okay. Okay, so in Illustrator, in Photoshop, and in InDesign, you have a properties panel, which allows you to set most of your options for any tool that you're using or the document itself. Okay, so I'm going to go to my layers, which is right here. If you don't have the layers panel or layers option there, you can go under the window menu and go to layers. Okay. So I'm going to, on this blank document, I'm going to bring in or place in one of my thumbnails that I drew. Again, I scanned mine in, but if you don't have a scanner, you can just take a picture of it and then bring it into Illustrator the same way that I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I'm going to go under the file menu and I'm going to go to place. And I'm going to go to my desktop where I have it saved. And I have my templates here on my desktop, wherever you're going to save your files to. I recommend creating a new folder on your computer wherever you're going to save your documents. And I would create a folder based on each project that you're going to be working on so that you can keep everything in that folder. File management is very important when you're working on anything, any designs. That way, you have all your reference images that you're using, your inspiration images, your templates, and then your file that you're going to be submitting for the class. So on this case, I'm going to name this minimalist poster. Okay. And then I'm going to save my Illustrator document in here. I'm going to save my PDF in here. And then I'm also going to save my PNG or JPEG that I'm going to export to use for the discussion board. Okay, so again, I have 3 templates here that I drew. I drew them in pencil first, and then I went over them again with Sharpie. So I think I'm gonna just use this one right now. This one is mostly lines. It is shapes, but it's mostly lines that I'm going to be drawing for that. So I'm going to locate the image that I'm going to use. I'm going to click place. And it's going to load a little icon, a little thumbnail icon of what I am placing. And I drew this on 8.5 by 11 paper. So I'm going to click and drag with my mouse until that image roughly fills the width of the document. And then I'm going to just adjust it so it's centered vertically and horizontally within the page. And you will get a lot of little tooltips coming up here in Illustrator talking about new features of the program. So there's always like a dismiss button there, so you can get rid of it. So I am going to make this into a template. So I'm going to double click on the first layer, and that's going to bring up the layer options. And there's an option right here to create a template. And what that's going to do, it's going to lock the image, lock the layer, and then dim the image to 50%. You can put it down to 25%, whatever percentage you want. And it's just basically going to gray it out a little bit. Excuse me. So when you trace it, you can still see the template, but it's not going to be as prominent. So you can still trace over it. I'm going to leave it at 50. And then you click OK. And you can see it's dimmed it out a little bit. But when I hover over the template, I get a little pencil with a circle with a no sign through it, meaning I can't do anything to this layer. So I need to add a new layer, and then I'll be able to draw on this one. So you can use a combination of the shape tools to create your shapes. So you have the rectangle tool, you have the rounded rectangle, the ellipse, the polygon, the star tools. So you can use those shapes. And I recommend you also using the pen tool. Again, if you're not too sure of using the pen tool, I have some pen tool exercises that you can complete for practice. If you want to get a little bit more familiar with the pen tool, if you haven't used it in a while. So like I said, hopefully when did DM101, you were exposed to some Illustrator in that class. So you should be familiar with the pen tool. So you're going to use, between the pen tool and the shape tools to complete this assignment. You also have the line tool here where you can do lines, line segments, but I would, kind of stick with the pen tool first and then the rectangle tool to create your lines. Okay. So I'm just going to start tracing my lines here. Some quick keyboard shortcuts. If you press D on the keyboard, that will give you the default white fill black stroke on your objects. If you press the / on your keyboard, that will turn your fill or your stroke to none. So in this case, my fill was active, so that turned it to none, and all I have is a black stroke. Over here in your appearance panel, you can adjust the thickness of the lines here. And again, for this first version, we're just working in black and white. So black strokes, white fills, black strokes, but no color at this point. Okay. This is where you can adjust your stroke weight here in your properties panel. If you are drawing lines and you want to say it's just a line like I drew here, and you want to move on to another section and start drawing, if I was to do that, it would continue that line. So if you press your escape key, it will stop the line. Okay, so escape and it will stop the line. If you want to draw a straight line, so you can see my line there is not quite straight, but I want it to be a straight line, I'm going to hold down my shift key and then that will draw a straight line. And then press the escape key to stop that line. Now, if you want the lines to be diagonal, you can do that. But just remember at the end of that line, press your escape key and it will stop that line. And then if you have like this area here is a complete shape. So I'm going to go. And again, I'm trying to make the lines straight. You can see my sketches kind of not quite straight lines. And then I'm always going to go back to my first anchor point to close that. It will have the little circle that lets you know that you are closing that line. Okay. And again, you're just using the template as a guide for what you're drawing. And when you get to the end of the line, press your escape key, and then it will stop the line. You'll be able to stop the line and then continue somewhere else on the page. If you want to see what it looks like without your template, you can click on this little box here and that will turn it off. And then all you see are the lines that you've drawn so far. Okay, so if you want to adjust any of these lines, I don't quite like the way that looks. I want it to be a little bit more even. So I'm clicking on those anchor points and then I'm adjusting them. Okay. Same thing with this one. I want it to be a little bit more, look like more of a diamond. But you can, if you don't want your shapes to be exact, this is a little bit off, that's fine. However, you're drawing these lines and shapes. But if you feel that you need to adjust anything, switch over to the direct selection tool and you can make your adjustments. Okay. I'm still not that great at drawing circles. So I'm going to switch over to my ellipse tool to draw my circle. So if you hold down your shift key, it will constrain the proportions and make a perfect circle. If you hold down your option or alt key on Windows, it will draw it from the center. So I'm holding down my shift and option alt key, and it's drawing a perfect circle from the center. Okay. And then I need to draw another circle in the middle of that. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, then my alt or option key, and draw the other circle. And then if I need to move it, I'm going to use my move tool and then position it where I want it. Okay. Then another tip on this one here where I have the same, roughly the same size circles there. I'm just going to draw one of them. So the option, alt, and then shift to draw the first one. And then I'm going to hold down the option or alt key, go back to my move tool. So go back to the selection tool or move tool, and then hold down my option key and drag a copy of that image, or that, not that shape, I should say. So the alt or option key will allow you to drag a copy of it. So you don't have to redraw it each time. Okay. So now I have the same size circles in a row. And then I can adjust them a little bit space-wise. Like that. I'm gonna this one down just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm just going to continue drawing my shapes here. Okay. And again, remember when you're making complete shapes, you're always going to go back to that first anchor point to finish it. Okay. And then I have some lines. And I have another line here. And then another line here. And then I have a curved line here. And then I'm just, excuse me, going to use my ellipse tool to create these other circles. And then use my move tool to position them. And then I think I'm going to use this one and copy it and bring it down there. So I don't have to draw them again. And then same thing here. I'm going to make a copy of that middle one and put it there. And same thing there. And then I need a smaller one right here. Okay. Move that up. Okay. And then I'm going to use my pen tool and draw this one. And then I need one more little circle here. And then one here. And I think that's it. Okay, and then I'm going to turn off the template and see what I have here. And I see I need make some adjustments on some of the lines. But that's pretty much what you need to do. So you're going to use your thumbnail sketches as your template and trace it with the pen tool or use the shape tools to create the document or create your design. Then when you're done, you're going to save it. With your first and last name. And then minimalist. Okay. So you're going to save it as an Illustrator file first. And then you're going to save as. You're going to change the format here to PDF. And you're going to save it as press quality. And you're going to make sure that you're saving all of this into that same folder. And then I'm going to export as. And I'm going to export it as either a PNG or a JPEG. It's up to you which one you want to do it as. Okay, but I'm going to save mine as a JPEG, export it as a JPEG. And just leave the default settings when you get into the JPEG options. And then I'm going to do export again, just so I can show you the PNG options. So you're going to use the default settings for the PNG options. So whichever one you decide to use. So JPEG or PNG, it's up to you. Okay, and then you're going to go back to the assignment page here. And I have to switch this to view a student. You're going to click start assignment, upload file, choose your file. So you're going to submit the Illustrator document and then click add another file, upload file, choose file, and then you're going to upload the PDF. And then you're going to submit that assignment. And when you submit this assignment, you're going to get the little confetti letting you know that the assignment has been submitted. Okay. And then I'm going to reset this here. Okay. I still have to add the discussion board, which I will do that when I'm done with this video. I'll add the discussion board in there. And then you're going to submit your PNG or JPEG to that discussion board. And there'll be a prompt in the discussion board for you to, when you respond to your fellow students' work in there. Okay, so again, that was the video for the minimalist poster. The first section or the first video was talking about the overall assignment. And then this video is talking about how to create it in Illustrator. So if you have any questions or want me to look at something as you're working on it, go ahead and submit it to the assignment page and I can look at it, or you can send it to me and I can look at it that way. And we can work back and forth on it. And again, if you are, not all the way complete with the assignment by the due date, go ahead and submit it anyway, so that I know that you've been working on it and have something that you've been working on. Okay, so always my email is on here on the front page. My email, you can also send me an email through Canvas. Here, the inbox, you can send me an email there. And I usually, like I said, get back to you within 24 hours. I will respond within a 24-hour period. But if it's something more urgent, like I said, I check my email regularly. But I will respond usually within 24 hours. Okay, so if you have any questions, just go ahead and email me and I will get back to you as soon as possible.